right. So now I want you to think about, I just kind of want to give you a visual, as I said, about thinking. How many of you have seen this taxonomy before? And if you've been in workshops with me before, you probably have seen it there. But this really is a hierarchy of thinking. And oftentimes, I want you to see that recalling facts is the lowest level of thinking. So just because you know a lot of information, that's wonderful. You need to do that, but that's the lowest level of your thought process. So then you want to be able to understand on a level of understanding what those facts mean. And then you want to be able to apply those facts to your situation. And so then you have to understand that all of those pieces may not work for me. So you have to analyze which parts work and which parts don't work. Which pieces do I want to keep? Which pieces do I want to get rid of? You don't just want to follow what somebody's telling you to do without thinking about it. And that's where the evaluation piece comes. What's working, what's not. And then when you figure out what's working, then you can create a whole new outcome, because you have kept the pieces that work for you with that new knowledge, and then you've created something else. And that has been the story of my life. That's how I've been able to create Bizperation, because I knew that I couldn't just have business strategy without being intentional about inspiring people. The two had to come together. And so there are other pieces, I'm sure, in your life where you can speak to that, where you have to understand that it's great to know what to do, but you have to think through how that works for you. Any questions or comments about that?
No questions. Oh, okay. Michelle raised her hand.
Okay.
Go ahead, Michelle.
I believe what you're saying, Christy, is 100% true. I have found myself this whole process of what you're speaking of. It means a lot. It means a lot to evaluate where you are and coming up with your own system and strategy and be confident in it. I think a lot of times we're not confident because we're unsure. It's new to us. But I found favor in knowing it's okay to be unsure and trust God. That's the biggest thing. So I thank you for this process, because it's very helpful and very important for me at this point in my life with a lot of things God is charging me to do. Thank you.
You are welcome, and thanks for sharing that, because you are so right about that. Sometimes, you are going out on a limb, doing what you think is the right thing, and if you compare the outcome to someone else's situation, it will look like it didn't work, but you're not them. So you have to trust that what you have been given to do will work for you. And guess what? If it doesn't, you can go back and try it again. You can go back and try it again. It is a learning process. It's a learning curve. We have to remind ourselves and give ourselves grace as we are trying to navigate through the decisions that we have to make. But the good thing is that they all will teach us a lesson of some sort. So it's always going to be something good that comes out of it, whether it's a lesson learned, even if it's just that. But I love what you're saying, because that is so true. We second guess ourselves all the time. I mean, this Bizperation stuff sat, because I wasn't sure, how people would react to it, and not necessarily how people would react to it, but was it needed with everything that's already out there and available? Was it needed? And so we have to learn to trust our process, trust that what we've been given to do does have value. And sometimes you won't see that until you put it out there. Sometimes you'll get confirmation, but many times you will not. You just have to put it out there. Is that right, Miss Cupcake Social?
Yes, ma'am. That's right.
I just remember the conversations about it, you know? You want to talk a little bit
Right.
about that?
Absolutely. So, yes. So you of all people know my struggle with it, but it was about being obedient to what God had told me to do. And just like you said, you're always wondering, like, is there a space for it with everything else that's out here for me to do this? And God gave me the directive of how to do it, how to lay it out. And so I met with you hoping that you were going to give me some Bizperation. And you were like, yep, do what God told you to do. And I'm like, wait a minute. So, sometimes we're so unsure that we just want somebody else to say, yep, this is what you need to do. Yeah, go forth and do it just like that. And you were just like, you just got to be obedient. You just got to do what God told you to do because you know exactly what he told you to do. And so, yeah, God wouldn't let me off the hook. You wouldn't let me off the hook. I just had to go forth. Just had to go forth and do it, just be obedient.
Because the thing is, the more practice we have with hearing and obeying, the easier it becomes, right? Because you learn to hear that voice, you become more familiar with that process. It's like, okay, I've been here before, I tried it this way, it worked. Okay, so I'm probably in the right space. Maybe the outcome may not be exactly what I think it will be. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be better than you imagine. But it gives you practice, and it takes time. It takes time because sometimes you just are not clear, and we are accustomed to getting step by step, being told what to do instead of thinking through the process. And let me just say this, I don't blame you. I don't blame you one bit, because we have learned, and I'm guilty of being, I'm not gonna say I'm guilty of doing it, but I'm guilty of being in a system. And when I worked as a public school educator, I was guilty of being in a system that did not necessarily encourage kids to think deeper. It encouraged them to learn and follow directions, do what they're told, remember this information. Now, thankfully, I was blessed to work in a different side of education, and gifted education, where our work was to teach kids all of these areas of thinking and to develop that in them and push them through to learn how to be problem solvers. Like, that was our work with them. But there were so many, that's 5% of the kids in the population. The rest of the children were not taught that way. And so most of us as adults were not encouraged in, we didn't learn how to go through all of these thinking processes. We were learned to do the right thing, right? To get the right answer. That's what we were taught to do. So we continue that as adults. And so I'm trying to just get you, to nudge you, to challenge you, to push you to think a little differently and to trust your gut a lot more than you've been. All right, so this is just a quick little acronym that I came up with to stretch your thinking. And so when you think of the word think, these are the pieces that I want you to remember. First of all, think for yourself. Now, when I say think for yourself, and you should see this on your note page too. There's the T, and then you can kind of fill in the sections there if you have the note piece. But when I say think for yourself, I don't mean that you don't take good advice. You don't take the facts. What I'm saying is to think, to be sure that that is what works for you. Don't just take it because somebody said it. I'm hoping that whatever I'm sharing with you today, you're evaluating it based on your experience. Does it feel right? Does it sound right? Is this helpful to you right now, today? So think for yourself. The H is have more than one way. And this is when we talk about fluent, having more than one idea, especially as an entrepreneur. You're going to have so many different ways of doing the same thing that you have to get in the habit of having more than one solution. We experienced that with the Cupcake Social. Normally she meets in person. So she had more than one way to meet with you, which was through this Zoom platform. Now, when Zoom has issues with hacking people, then I guess we're going to go to the cell phone calls. I don't know. We're going to have a text meeting. I don't know. But we have to have more than one way, and we cannot give up when that one way does not work. We have to continue, and that should be a part of your initial thought process. Don't get comfortable with just this one way to do it. You need to have a plan A, B, and C. Now, you may not have to use it, but at least think through it. Because at some point in your entrepreneurship journey, I'm a witness, you're going to have to use it. Now, it may not be today or tomorrow, but at least you have thought through it. So get in the practice of having more than one way to approach something. And the I is more, imagine how others feel. And that's the empathy piece. When, we're assuming that everybody is tech savvy to be able to jump on this Zoom call, right? So, when we say, okay, we're just going to move to Zoom. No, it was a process. We had to start letting you know months ahead, this is what we're going to do. Then we had to make sure we sent over communicate. This is what it is. Okay, these are the forms that we're going to use. So we sent you those via email. We sent you those through the Facebook. We sent you those through, different platforms. So we have to understand that people are at different spaces of this technology transition. So you have to put yourself in the minds of those that you're serving. And there's a difference in making assumptions about people and being empathetic. So find the balance with that. But I think that we've created a community where we feel safe enough to communicate with each other. This wasn't comfortable for me. This is a better way to do it. I wish we would have done it that way. And if you don't have that within your systems or your community or the work that you do, I would highly encourage you to make sure that you create a space for feedback within your group, because we are trying to anticipate how people are feeling and what they're needing, but we really have to ask them. Okay, so put yourself in their shoes as much as you can. Okay, in the end, notice new problems and new solutions. Now, it doesn't say wait for a new problem or a new solution. It doesn't say wait for it to knock on your door and say, how can you help me with this? It says notice. That means your eyes are open. You're on the hunt. You are looking. You are listening. You are aware. You are tapped in. Finding new ways. Finding what issues people are having and being able to respond to those. That's what an entrepreneur does. That's what a leader does. You're always listening. Now, understanding you cannot be all things to all people. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is do have an awareness. And when you are clear on your purpose, there is Keisha. When you are clear about your purpose, then you can determine if that aligns with the problems and the solutions that you have identified. Now, since I see Keisha's face popping up here, I want you to talk about how you have responded to your noticing about the gaps in people's ability to network. These things too, y'all.
So one of the ways that I noticed, I don't know what my screen is doing. Okay, I can see you all now. One of the things that I've noticed is everybody, like you said, everybody's not tech savvy. But I think as we kind of maneuver through this new wave right now, being patient with people is where I'm at right now. And so because I work from home full-time in my full-time position, we had not virtually had as many connections and things that we've had. But one of the things that I'm noticing is our older generations, I felt like we needed to maybe individually get on some calls with them to kind of see what were the things that they were going through. Mm-hmm. And as we were able to tap into specifically what each individual, because everybody's not the same across the board. And I think that's where we were showing up before, is just thinking that everybody's just going to get it, but they weren't. And as things shifted, listening clearly to what people were saying in the midst of all of this has been a saving grace for me. But it's allowed me to slow down, and to really connect to what the issue was. And because I haven't been able to be face to face when it comes to my personal business, I created a podcast so that I can still have that same interaction. I can still talk to people. I can still talk about networking. I can still share tips with people. And so I had to pivot quickly because I recognized, okay, there was something that I wasn't tapping into within me. But I think had none of this had happened, I wouldn't even have had, so I started the podcast a year ago. Let me just say that. Started it a year ago and didn't do anything with it because the need wasn't there for me. Mm-hmm. Need is there though, and shifting and then listening, because I had to listen, but I had to also get quiet, not be anxious by all of this, and know that the gifts, they're gonna make room. Every single time the gifts are gonna make room. And I'm learning right now to look at what's going on and pay attention, because this is not gonna be the last time that something happens like this. But for us to be equipped and ready and know what it is that we have to offer despite whatever is going on, I think that's the biggest thing. And then that confidence, knowing that he gave it to us. Right. And this THINK acronym, Christy, looking at new solutions. What's the solution now? Yeah. How do you jump in?
Yeah. It's ever evolving. I mean,
it is
evolving. I was looking at an article somewhere, you know, I'm always reading stuff, and it said that, you know, like Zooms and virtual meetings is a way of the future. And I'm like, no, it's not the future. It's the now. It in the snap of a finger, it has become the now. Right. And so we didn't get the luxury of transitioning. We were flung into it. Some of us were flung into it, you know?
But look at the people who already were in that space, that were already using it, that already had accounts, that already had this stuff going on. I think that said a lot as well, because we were able to talk through to people that hadn't. But I see all sorts of Zoom things happening across the nation. But even if you think about the little issue that Zoom had, there was a security thing that Zoom had, and Zoom, they had to pivot quickly too.
They weren't even ready. They didn't anticipate the volume. They just, how could they have? How could they? Yeah.
No way possible. Yeah. And so thinking of a company of that size and really what that probably took from them to be able to jump in at the same time too, that was inspirational for me. It was. Yeah. Because that said, it's all right, because we're going to make mistakes. But we have to figure it out, find a solution, keep going.
Yeah, yeah. And I love what we're saying. You know, we're all in this together, which means we all need the same grace. Nobody's moving any faster than the other one. Now, it might be you today, but it's going to be me tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So we are all trying to figure it out, you know? So I love that space that we have all had to kind of reboot and repivot and come back to square one in a sense and figure out how to move forward.
And slow down and be patient, because during this time, I think that patience is the main thing that it's made everything okay. Just being patient, because people are going to have glitches. Got to be patient.
Part of the problem.
The words.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that some of the most innovative spaces have been having glitches in their meetings. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's like when NASA is having issues, you know, when Apple is having issues, you know, when Venture Cafe, Innovation Hall, and all of these spaces, the Cortex spaces are having, I mean, like, it's an issue for everybody. So we just have to keep being patient and navigate through it. Did anyone else have a quick story of a pivot that they had to, or I look at it as an opportunity to pivot, that they had because of this shift in a new problem that they noticed and they were able to solve it quickly? Anyone else want to share?
I don't see any hands going up or anyone raising their hand or anyone chatting to say anything, but I will just add a little bit that for me, from the opposite standpoint, because for me, I was kind of on autopilot, and I think maybe a lot of people in business were. I was kind of on autopilot, and I was, I kind of had months ahead, of how everything was going to go. And then bam, COVID-19 hit. And so it threw everything for a loop for me. And I wasn't okay at first. I was like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to go. I was praying. I was fasting. I was like, I don't know what to do, because God showed me a vision of how this was to go. And this COVID-19 was nowhere in the vision. So
it wasn't in your vision. It was
it was nowhere in the vision that he showed me, that I saw, and none of that. So I'm like, Lord, now, okay, so how am I going to do this now? So it really took me a couple of weeks to get my feet back on the ground. Like, literally, it hit me hard. I was like on my face, like, I don't know what to do now. And so I think a lot of other business owners were probably feeling the same thing, and maybe afraid to say or speak up about it because of, not wanting to be, just everybody knowing how insecure or whatever you're feeling at that moment. But I was very insecure. I didn't know what to do because it wasn't in the vision. It wasn't in the plan. And, it took me a minute to really try to figure out, how am I going to do this? How can I still serve people if I'm not in front of people? Mm-hmm. And so, I'm still thinking through this process, and, I'm grateful for you today, because I'm still thinking through it. I'm still trying to come up with ways to serve women and to still boost other women entrepreneurs and help them while also being virtual. So this has really been something that kind of rocked me and my business. Yes, I trust God. Yes, I believe him. Yes, I serve him. Yes, I'm obedient to him, but it really did shake me for a minute. So, it took to like last week for me to be okay. For me to be really like, okay, I can do this. But it took me a minute.
Mm-hmm. That's real. I mean, that is real. That is vulnerable. And as you said, you are not by yourself. I'm sure there are lots of us that have felt that at some point in the journey. Like I said, it may not be me today, but it will be tomorrow. I mean, we are taking this thing step by step and day by day. And it's just the grace of God and our community and family and all of that are, helping us to get through this. And we still ain't through it. I mean, we still are coming through it, They say the worst is still yet to come, as far as, the tolls and all of the numbers and all of that. But we just still have to stay focused, maintain our faith. Whatever has been working for us, we just have to continue to be open. And, just kind of takes me to this last piece, knowing what questions to ask, especially during this time. There are lots of resources out there, but if you don't ask for them, if you don't tell people that you need help, they will not know. And so you have to know how to speak up. And do you realize that questioning is a form of advocacy for yourself? Because you're asking and making a request for what it is that you need. And when you don't know how to communicate that, then you're always going to be left out, because you don't know what you need. For one, usually that's why people don't ask questions, because they don't even know what they need. But I just love the idea of getting a question when you, especially spaces like this. This is such a wealth of network. Do you know how many experiences are here on this call at one time? I mean, if we all just took our 6 degrees of network and just threw them all in the middle of this call, we could take over the world in 2 seconds flat. But if you don't, she's so ready. But if you don't put your ask out there, if you don't, I'm really hoping that you guys, and I'm looking at my clock because I want to make sure that we get to that. I really hope you came to the table with your questions, your needs. I don't care if it's just, I need to meet 2 more inspirational women that I can connect with every day. If it's simply that, always put that ask out in the room. Come prepared with it, because you're not going to get what you want. As they say, a closed mouth does not get fed. I have a new book out. It's called the Bizperation Photo Think Tank Journal. And so what we just talked about, and let me take you through some of the pages. It's a journal that has like pictures that you can reflect on, and each of the, let me get to one of the opening sections. So each of the sections has a different type of challenge. This is think beyond what you see. This is like the first, so it'll tell you the value of that and why it matters. And so then each day you kind of go through and you look for the pictures and how they relate to your situation. This one is dare to compare. This is how you can look at your value. This really kind of takes you through what is your value. There are positive ways to compare what you are and what you're not. And so this is another aspect. So really this is just muscle workout for your brain. This one, you can order one from our bizperation.com website. I'll sign it for you and ship it out to you. I've had moms use it. I've had teenagers use it. I've had, of course, entrepreneurs and leaders that love it. So there you go. All right. So I want to talk quickly through the mindset piece, right? Where is your mindset today? And we've talked about this really through a lot of the comments that you've shared. But what I hope you take away from this is that it's not a one-shot arrow. Your mindset is made up of so many different pieces, so many different aspects. You're thinking about your successes or your failure. You're trying to stay positive and not be negative. What are your beliefs? What's inspiring your beliefs? You're trying to keep a positive attitude. So understand that it is a process, and you're going to grow each day if you focus on it. So listen, here comes our buckets. And some of you that have been in workshops with us today love this piece. So I want you to think about a current struggle that you have. And I'm really trying to hurry up and get back to my chat so that I can see you guys and see everybody. But the big picture with this is, whenever you face a struggle, you have 3 options for it, right? And I'm telling you that. You have 1, 2, or 3. Let it go, meaning it is what it is. It happened. I'm not going to give it any of my energy. Maybe I caused it. Maybe I didn't. It gets no energy. Let it go. Or you might say, okay, lesson learned. I'm going to reflect on this. I'm going to see what I did, what I didn't do. What are the takeaways that I really need? What are the takeaways that I really need from this situation? Because trusting and believing that all things work for my good, I'm going to take it as a lesson learned. The third bucket is, I'm going to own it. This is something that happened, something I had something to do with. So I'm going to do the work. I'm going to be intentional about taking actionable steps to prevent this struggle from happening again. Okay. So any of your struggles can fit into any of these buckets. And so if you keep these in your mind, you can easily process it. The reason that we hold on to our struggles and our mindset is because we don't know what to do with it. So it's about making a decision. Make a decision, choose where you want it to go, and follow it accordingly. Ooh, let me share this really quick before we get back to the hot seat. All right, so I have a special invitation for 10 women. I don't know who you are yet. We're going to be meeting for the next 6 weeks, once a week, 2 hours. We're going to dig in to your strategy needs, stretching mindset. This is not going to be about me dumping information into you. This is going to be about you processing your challenges, learning from the group, building an accountability circle, and understand this is something that God told me to do. So this is not, I'm not advertising this on Facebook. This is going to be an organically grown word of mouth strategy circle. I am a part of one, and it is so, so valuable to me. But this is a space where we can consistently come together to grow. Okay, so I will send information out. I only have 10 seats available. And so that's how this is going to grow. I'm really excited about it because the timing is now where we have time to focus on it. And so I have the time to actually focus on it as well. And so I'm just grateful for it. So you'll be hearing more about that. You focus on it as well. And so I'm just grateful for it. So you'll be hearing more about that. If you want to stay connected, if we haven't met yet, we are on YouTube. We do weekly top 5 strategy sessions where I kind of share those tips that I've learned throughout our business experience. We have a podcast where we're on, Google Play, Podbean, and iTunes. You can check out our website for other resources that we have as well.